Good morning, everyone. So, starting from scratch, let's face it, life is littered with a series of stops, starts, restarts. How you manage these are going to define your business, your book of business, if you have it, even your life. So, Dominic Grew is going to be on our show today to share. So, let's get right into it. Good morning, everyone. So, change. And we have in this morning Dominic Grew. My name is Paula Madison Sierra, Power Marketing SF and host of the show. And Dominic is going to be on this morning. He is the owner and founder of Elevate Business Coaching. He has over 25 years of experience in management, leadership, and executive positions leading both teams and executives. And Dominic, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Paula, it's my pleasure to be here with you. Thanks so much for having me on board, and I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have.
Yeah, and it's because it's a little scary
Yeah,
restarting. So, do we really need to go through change, Dominic? I mean, what the heck?
yeah, I know. And it's so funny that we're talking about this topic of change, just given that how much change that we've had in the last 2 years. It feels like for many people, there's been almost like 20 years of change in a 2 year period. But we all experience change, whether we like it or not. It's part of our lives. It's part of our, everything to do with our business involves change in some shape or form. So I guess, Paula, for all of us, it's a necessary evil, or maybe it's an opportunity.
Maybe it's an opportunity. But wait a second, you've been through a lot of change as well to educate this topic that I know that you lead your executives and teams through quite a bit. Tell me about some of the change that you've been through.
Well, I've had. I mean, we've all had changes, right? But there's probably two or three in my life that I identify and say, "Wow, that was a really big change." And the first one, Paula, you can probably tell that I have a little bit of an accent. I didn't grow up, believe it
Not
or
at
not,
all.
in Boston, Massachusetts. So for me, the first part of my life, the first 28 years
Yeah.
of my life was in growing up in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I moved to the States, ultimately ended up marrying my wife, and we're still happily married, I'm happy to say. But obviously, changing country was
Yeah.
a huge change for me.
Yeah.
And it's one that many people have been through as well. And a good change, but a difficult and challenging change
Absolutely.
as well.
Coming from Jamaica myself, of course, I cannot compare language transfer from like a Russia or a China or something like that. But people don't understand, even though you're coming from a English-speaking country, that it's still very challenging socially, and even the words that don't mean the same anymore.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. I used to joke with someone else that we're divided by a common language. People use words differently, they spell words differently, and there's communication that happens, and especially in the culture I grew up, a lot of the communication actually happens between the lines. It's what's not said
Yes.
that's the real message. And so the whole thing of linguistics is very interesting. But when you change country, and you're in a multicultural environment, there's a lot happening in that space.
Yeah, no, definitely. One of the things that you said about change earlier on, I really love because I know it's something that you work on with your teams and your executives, but that it may be an opportunity. How is it an opportunity? Because it's scary. Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? Because we are all going through life, and we're all having this conversation in our head, right? About are we safe? And let's face it, most people don't actively seek out change. They really don't. They want to be comfortable. They're
Mhm.
comfortable with where they are, where they're growing up, the environment, the society. So they mightn't necessarily want to seek change out because they're already comfortable very often. where they are, they understand the rules,
Mm.
right? And so the thing of actually seeking out change is it's fraught with risk. It may not be safe. There's a million reasons why. So I guess by nature, very often we don't actively seek out change because sometimes, Paula, we view that it can be very uncomfortable. And why would we want to put ourselves through that?
Yeah, absolutely. I heard you say that people don't really seek out change and they like to stay where they are. Do you think that there's a tie-in between staying where you are and perfectionism?
Is there a tie-in between staying where you are and perfectionism?
Yeah, because
As you ask that question, I think of and I'm not sure why, but I'll share it with you anyway. I think of a musician who knows their instrument and really focuses just on getting better and better and better. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I love music. I love listening to symphonies and orchestras and that stuff. So I guess it depends on whether you are really trying to practice one thing very well, right? And you want to get it just perfect, or you prefer to have a broader set of skills. Maybe there's other instruments you want to play. Maybe there's other hobbies that aren't music related at
yeah,
all. So it depends. What I have found in my work, working really with businesses and people leading businesses, uh, is more often than not the perfectionism actually can hold them back. It limits their thinking. They're spending 80% of their effort getting that last 1% just right. There are times when getting it right is extremely important, and
yeah,
it's worth it
yeah,
because it cannot be a note off, right? And there's other times, well, does it really matter that much if it's not perfect? Is it good enough? So for most of my clients, I encourage them to back off from being perfect because the reality is none of us are perfect, not even me.
yeah,
I
yeah,
bet, well, you're pretty close, but but for most of us, all joking aside, you know, having the goal of perfectionism is really a goal that is unachievable.
yeah,
Being comfortable and accepting of it's good enough can be quite liberating.
yeah, yeah. What are there any factors that typically drive change? What's the catalyst for it? Because
Yeah,
it's like I always joke about my mom. It's like she's so excited about the technology. I mean, a couple of years ago, it was the excitement about the fax machine. She just thought that it was the most incredible thing. But now, of course, we're in a different era, and of
yeah,
course, she's now excited about technology. And do you know what the computer can do? And she
yeah.
calls it a TV, but that's besides the point. You know, it's like, but what are these factors that drives change?
I have this formula that I use with my clients a lot. It's called Glaciers Formula. And basically, what it says is that most change is driven by a dissatisfaction of the status quo or the status quo, depending on which way you say the word. Uh, but more often than not, there's a dissatisfaction with the current situation that you're in today,
Okay.
right? So if I go back to my own situation where I was growing up, first 28 years of my life in the north part of Ireland, where the natives on the island don't get along, they're fighting with each other, there's conflict, doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of hope. I'm doing well personally, but maybe I was dissatisfied. Maybe I thought that there was more out there. And ultimately, that drove me to explore opportunities, to take some risks and things that ultimately changed my life. So when you ask me the question about about change and driving change, for change to happen, very often there's an underlying dissatisfaction with what's currently in place. That's the kind of first thing that needs to happen. I'm going to talk on for two more points just on this thing about the
No, please
formula.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the formula for changes. And it sounds formula, it's not complicated, but it basically says that in order for change to happen, there's dissatisfaction with the current situation. Uh, there's a vision of how it could be better, how what we have today could be better in the future. And it's clear as to what that is. And then the next component of that is that once you understand that there's something better out there, you have a clear idea of what it looks like.
Yeah.
that you then identify the first steps that you can take
Mhm.
towards accomplishing that. Doesn't have to be all the steps, but just get started. You can't move a parked car, right? So
Yes.
you've got to have action. It's not enough just to think about it, and you need to have all of those in place: the satisfaction, a vision, and then the first steps towards some type of action. Uh, in order to overcome resistance. In other words, the pushback that we always have. Well, maybe I don't want to do that after all. Maybe what I have today is good enough for me, or maybe it would just be too much work to make a change. It'd be just too uncomfortable, too difficult. I don't know. I can't see the path. So there's a lot. While there's change, there's a lot that's always pushing us back, always making us resist the change as well.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because that change sounds like it's by choice. What happens if it's not by choice? Like
Yeah,
what we've been going through for the last 2 years. How do you deal with something out of left field?
yeah. Well, the first thing is to accept that things are going to come up that you didn't foresee. You may have had no control over whatsoever. Uh, there may be a little bit and we lived through this with COVID as well, where
Yeah,
you're kind of like running about like a cat chasing its tail. You're not quite sure what to do.
yeah.
It's a shock. Something has changed, right? So kind of accepting that, look, a change has happened here. We're not quite sure what it means, but at some point you're going to have to accept that something has changed and start to get to work on figuring out what you're going to do. What's the action that you can take given that the game has changed?
So I know we're really our focus on this show is business owners and people who are interested in starting businesses. How will change affect a business owner, especially if I mean, we've seen a couple of businesses where they're almost becoming obsolete because of the situation that we were in. Other people, the dynamic of their business and how their clients interact with them as forced change. But how will this improve? Talk to me about how will this improve the business owner?
Yeah. Well, first of all, those that start businesses are typically quite entrepreneurial, right? They're not satisfied with the status quo. They want to do things on their own terms. So they're quite adventurous people and quite pioneering people because they've taken a step into an unpredictable world. So number one is that's a good thing, right? Uh, in terms of what I encourage my business owners to be doing is to always be thinking forward for the business. So they have been on a journey with their business. They got it started running, but the realization that everything about their business is undergoing change, right? Just look at what we've been through the last 2 years. People's habits have changed, right? They're using technology more than they ever have. Expectations have changed. Uh, the expectations of your employees as to what they want
Amen.
from work has changed. So like everything is changing around us all the time. So what I encourage firms to do is to be always looking forward. What are the opportunities that change present for their firms? What are the risks associated with their business, because it can change on a dime. A new competitor comes in, et cetera, et cetera. So really to be looking at their business strategically and taking action around where they see opportunities with the change, and also sometimes showing up those areas where there's potential weakness as well.
Nice. One of the things I'm hearing, which, sometimes my business owners almost view it like it's a death sentence, is I heard your solution is you need to have a plan. Have
Oh
a
my
plan.
God.
It's okay. It's not a death sentence, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Do it, you
Yeah.
know?
And so often, again, with entrepreneurs or business owners, I'll ask them that question, like, do you have a plan? And they'll say, oh, yeah, of course I do. Of course I have a plan. And then I'll ask the question, could you share it with me? Can we talk about the plan? And that's Paul, when you realize that the plan it's in their head. It's never been written down. It's never been articulated, and it's certainly never been shared. And very often with clients, that's what we get going on.
Yeah.
Uh, let's create this. Let's get it out of your head, and let's actually create it so it exists
In the real world. It's not in the matrix.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is from that, then you realize that it becomes a process.
Yeah.
You get a first draft. Well, what about this? What about that? And number one, create it, and then you just move it so far forward because you have something tangible now that you can work with, improve, discuss, go back and forth with, engage other people on, and then actually come up with a better solution and plan.
Can I tell you, I want to share that every time I've had my clients, I just want you to sit down and just empty your head. Just write it down, bullet points, whatever. I don't care, just so that we can have something to discuss. Once they start putting it on paper, they kind of realize that some of the ideas are a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Things don't make sense. There's no tie-in. It's not
Yes.
logical. They don't have what they need to even make it happen yet.
Yeah.
But it's nice for them to see it. And so it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And of course, once they start talking about that, now I can say, hey, it's nice to get it out of your head because some of it was just taking up space,
Totally. And again, think about organizations where there's not just one owner, but there's a number of individuals that, are collectively charged with moving the organization forward, growing the organization, making sure it continues to adapt. The other thing that you find is sometimes if they don't have a clear vision, going back to that formula I talked about, there's got to be agreement on what the vision is. And to have agreement, you have to actually put it down on paper. Like, what does this look like in our ideal world? What would it look like if we could create this company? And it was perfect. What would that look like? Right? Because if you don't have a common vision, it's really difficult to come up with a plan that everybody can sign up to and get moving on.
Yeah, that we can actually see and have a discussion about. So of course, you're an executive business coach. What the heck does a business coach do? Because I feel like I hear so many different approaches and what that looks like from so many different people. And so it would be nice what the heck do you guys do exactly?
Great question. I love this question. And, folks are familiar with the idea of a coach, right? What does a coach do? Athletes, right? Even though they're highly talented at what they do, very often they have a coach who is there with them. And the reason for that is because they have blind spots. They can't see always what they're doing, right? There might be, better ways to do it more effectively. So in sports, we're very comfortable with the idea of coaching. But in the business world, it's the same thing. We have business owners who, they're growing a business. They're trying to get people work together, but they don't know it all.
No,
they have blind spots, and they have challenges. And running a business, managing people is one of the most difficult jobs out there. And the reason that I know is because I've done that. And I've also done it at a global level where I've been operating a company across, different time zones, continents, and it all gets like magnified up. So it's really, really hard. So the idea of having somebody who, almost like a golfer, has a caddy who's walking alongside you and helping you navigate and figure out what's going to work for you. So a coach doesn't tell you how to do it. A coach doesn't fix it for you. A good coach is not going to give you a standard answer. A great coach is going to work with you to understand what it is that you want to accomplish, the vision, what's the outcome. They're going to talk with you about why you're not there already. What are some of the obstacles that are keeping you from being there already? Yeah. And then ultimately, once you've done all of that, a coach is going to work with you to help figure out the plan. What's the first step in the plan? And then hold you accountable so you don't talk yourself out of taking the action that you need to take.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think every coach is right for everyone? What does that look like? I mean, is it like a ditto situation? It's like, okay, Dominic is great for everyone, or every coach, you can just simply assign them to someone. How does the coaching world work exactly?
Yeah. every everyone is great for me. I'm just kidding. No, it's like, think about it. Like, seriously, think about it. Every person is different. The journey that they've walked is different. The experiences what they have are different. The challenges. So everybody is different, right? So you can't have a one size fits all approach at all, right? So and it works both ways, Paula. I'm not the right client, or sorry, I'm not the right coach for every client at all. But I'm also looking at clients and thinking, is this somebody that I can help?
Mm.
Right. So the discovery process that we go into, first of all, is there something to work with here? And what would success look like? What do you want from a coach? If somebody wants to be told what to do with their business, that's not a good match, because that's not how I work with my clients. I work with them as a guide. I'm asking them what they think, what they've tried, what would hold them back from doing something. But at the end of the day, they own the business. It's their business. They own the success from the action that they take, not me. I'm just trying to help them figure it out quickly
Yeah.
and successfully.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you another question. Is coach to client, is there privacy issues? I mean, you're sharing so much about how you do things, your new services, maybe your new process. Is there privacy between client to client? I mean, from one of your clients to the other client?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so I'm so glad that you asked that question, Paula. I view myself uh, as a trusted advisor, and also I view the work that I do as a vocation. Believe it or not. So what does that mean? It means that I have skills that I'm using to help people, and sometimes those are very personal to the individual. They will share information with me that's extremely personal.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the relationship, right? So there's personal confidentiality issues, and then, as you mentioned, well, what about competitors? Like, how does that work, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so when I'm working with client, everything is entirely confidential. If there's a conflict there, or maybe I'm working with the firm across the street, that doesn't work,
Yeah.
right? Just like lawyers will say, well, I can't be on the, I have an interest, I have to excuse myself from the situation. It's the same thing. But the work that I do with clients is very, it's really at the heart for them as individuals, and then also for the business as well.
Nice. I love that. You know, how numbers related is what you do? I know this is like a side note from
No,
change, but I'm curious. It's like, how deeply do you go into the numbers? I'm curious.
yeah. So I Paula, you have such great questions. But I love this because very often there's so many different types of coaches. There's people that do life coaching, and that's not what I do. The work that I do with my clients is based around their business, right? And getting results in their business. So one of the questions that I ask my clients is, what does success look like from your point of view? Because I want to make sure that I can deliver it with them, not for them, but with them. And also that they're going to get a return
Yeah,
on
exactly.
their investment. So I there's a number of tools that I use to help me accomplish that, right? So for example, if somebody said, I want to grow my revenue, I would say, well, by how much? And why did you pick that amount?
Yeah.
And how do we measure that? Because metrics are really, really important. Otherwise, there's no meat on the bone for the coaching. Like, what's the outcome that you want to get?
Yeah.
So for many of my clients, we are talking about their financials every month.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Every month, I set them up. Also, we don't just talk about it; we plot them. I have a system I give them access to. They can put their numbers in. Every
Mhm.
month, we talk about the numbers because they need to see that they're making progress on the objectives and the goals that they've set for themselves.
Absolutely.
And so we talk about those numbers every single month, and we plot them in. So it's very quantitative based.
Nice. I love that, you know? And so, I guess kind of rolling this all back to change, there's, yes, there's change, but it sounds like there's support for the change in many ways, because you have people who just coach only.
Yeah.
And they're doing, is that more of a lifestyle situation then that they're coaching? Is that how it's categorized?
You mean like
Personal coaching?
lifestyle coaching? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's not that um, there's benefits when I'm working with clients. For example, if they say I'm working too much, I say, well, what do you mean? And they'll say, well, I'm working 60 or 70 hours a week. Well, what would you like it to be? I'd like to work 40 hours a week. Well, what would the benefits be of that? Oh my God, it could save my marriage. I could have more time with my kids. I'd be a happier person. Now,
Oh,
those are all benefits that are going to impact, right, all the aspects of their life. But
mm,
my focus is with them on the business side.
yeah.
But in general, Paula, uh, all these parts of life are interrelated. But my focus is on the business. But in general, what I find is my clients derive huge benefits in terms of having balance in their lives, being able to come to work with a little more focus,
Yeah.
action oriented, refreshed, happier to be around, easier for them to recruit, etc., etc., etc. So it's not life coaching; it's focused solely on the business, but the benefits affect every area of their life.
Uh, Dominic, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I mean, it's one of the things that I really heard is, yes, change is scary, but life is scary, it's messy, right? But there are supports. There are folks out there like business coaches, because some of my business owners don't understand the concept of a coach. Why do I need it? Why should I hire them? It's going to be too intrusive, and so. I really appreciated you being on just to share what that experience looks like, you
Yeah.
know.
No, I'm happy. I appreciate you inviting me on. I'd never heard of business coaching myself. I wish I had. I definitely would have used it myself. And it's not for everyone, but it is for many people and can really improve their situation.
No, absolutely. And how can people stay in touch with you? They want more information. They want to, get comfortable, with you. How would they go about doing that? What do you think is the best way?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is just go to my website,
Mm.
elevatebusinesscoaching.com. And if you go on there, you can either set up a time to speak, or if you just want to sign up I have a monthly newsletter, you can sign up right there. There's some other free books and videos and stuff. So that's the easiest way. Just reach out to the website and you can sign up there.
Perfect. I love it. And also reach out to Dominic, please, on LinkedIn. Connect with him there, so you can see his post, and it will give you that little reminder to get to the website and possibly sign up. And of course, if you're ready for marketing, reach out to Power Marketing SF. But of course, we can't operate if your operations isn't working well as well. So definitely, it's a great conversation. You know. So thank you again. My continued mission, as always, is to introduce you to people like Dominic, what I consider everyday experts and business owners who will share their experience and their skill to help up-level you. And of course, also offering you marketing tips as well. We are every Thursday, 10 a.m. on LinkedIn, previously on Facebook. Our show is called 10 at 10. Thank you so much, guests. You continue to amaze me. I appreciate the sharing and the support and the DM, the messages on the back end. To close out, a quote by Oprah: "You get in life what you have the courage to ask for." So even when you're scared about the change, ask for the next step, and be supported by people like Dominic, by the way. So thank you so much again, Dominic. I appreciate it. I feel like this topic, we could just go, so we could be
Yeah,
sitting here
I'm
just
skimming the
talking.
surface on it, but
It's that topic, because I know a lot of people are so scared of change. So I really appreciate it this morning. So thank you.
thanks again, Paula.
Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of the day and keep moving forward. Bye.